Right now, President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden are in New Orleans in the wake of the New Year's Day vehicular terrorist attack on Bourbon Street, attending a prayer service hosted by the Archdiocese of New Orleans to mourn the loss of the 14 victims who were killed. But that was not the only incident that happened over those 24 hours to be investigated as a possible act of terrorism. In Las Vegas, Matthew Livelsberger, a member of the Army's elite special forces, blew himself up inside a Tesla Cybertruck near the entrance of the Trump International Hotel on New Year's Day. It turns out we know a lot more about his motivations as well as his political leanings than we originally read in the papers. As Talking Points memo reported over the weekend, authorities released notes written by the truck bomber in which he wrote, quote, "This was not a terrorist attack. It was a wake-up call. Americans only pay attention to spectacles and to violence." In another letter, Livelsberger used the popular racist insult for black success when referring to Vice President Kamala Harris. He wrote, quote, "Stop obsessing over diversity. We are all diverse, and DEI is a cancer. Thankfully, we rejected the DEI candidate." He called for the removal of Democrats from the federal government and military, peacefully if possible or by any means necessary. In another letter, he wrote that, quote, "Masculinity is good and men must be leaders," adding that people should rally around Trump and Elon Musk. Signs of politicized violence matter because we are weeks away from potentially scores of pro-Trump January 6th insurrectionists being released from prison with brand new pardons. And if they're members of the Oath Keepers or the Proud Boys, extremist groups, they likely have military backgrounds. And revelations like what we got about the Vegas truck bomber's views may seem like something from a bygone era once the FBI is in the hands of Trump's people like Kash Patel, who may not be so eager to share. The pre-Trump FBI, meanwhile, has new updates about the pipe bomber who placed explosive devices on January 5th, 2021, near the Republican and Democratic National Committee headquarters in Washington, D.C. This is previously unreleased video of the suspect placing one of the pipe bombs outside the DNC around 7:54 p.m. And here is new video showing the suspect walking between the RNC and the Capitol Hill Club. After all this time, we still know almost nothing else about this really scary incident that preceded the January 6th insurrection. Joining me now is Hunter Walker, investigative reporter for Talking Points Memo. Hunter, good to see you. Do you have a sense, just as a journalist, as to why we seem to know so little about this investigation? And is it that authorities know so little or that they're just not releasing it?
So first off, I think of the attempted Capitol bombing as almost a microcosm of the broader January 6th story, just because there's so much of a lack of accountability. After this major and, as you say, extremely scary incident happened sort of in conjunction the night before that dark day. The updates that they've released now basically made clear that at this point they're hoping for a tip from the public to solve this case. I get the impression, in part because this latest update came with the admission that, the reason that they haven't released a complete accounting of the suspect's route between the two-party headquarters is in part because they, quote unquote, lost video coverage at one point. So when I see admissions like that, I see appeals to the public so long after the fact, I think they are just struggling to close this case. And it seems like it's at a juncture where, barring public intervention, we will not get answers.
I feel like we had less video of Luigi Mangione, and they caught him really fast in another state. Like there was this intense determination to catch this man who allegedly shot a CEO. But when it comes to this, which, as you said, this was 4 years ago, this is one of the most frightening incidents we've seen in D.C. Do you get a sense that the FBI wasn't really trying? Where were these requests for the public to help out back then?
So I've been reporting on January 6th, really since the day it was happened. I was there that day. And in conjunction with this, I have chased this story of the Capitol pipe bombs as sort of the biggest lingering mystery from that day. And you're absolutely right to bring up Luigi Mangione, because I couldn't help but think of the contrast here when, in the hours after that shooting, we had such a detailed accounting of Luigi's movements. They ultimately got that sort of needle in the haystack footage of that one moment he took his mask down. And it really underscored just how much less we have on the Capitol pipe bomb case. When I was saying they don't have a complete record of the suspect's movements, there seems to be no information about how the suspect arrived in the Capitol Hill neighborhood or how they left. There's also, the assistant director of the FBI who's involved in the field office that's leading this investigation has said that they've had difficulties, and one of them is that it's hard to recognize the masked suspect. So they clearly don't have that kind of image that we saw of Luigi Mangione, where his face was available. And what I find so interesting about that is this isn't your typical neighborhood. I strolled the route of the suspect. I've knocked on many of the doors. The FBI has, done thousands of interviews and done thousands of hours of work on the case. And this area is sort of the heart of official Washington. These blocks are lined with lobbying headquarters. Multiple current and former members of Congress live there. There's something called the quote unquote Exxon Embassy. And in one case, one of these blocks the suspect traversed is literally, 1 block away from the Capitol. It opens right onto a police checkpoint. And in spite of that, we don't have complete footage and we don't have answers. Whereas, the NYPD net over Manhattan Island seems to be much more thorough. So that's another one of the reasons, as I think of this as, a bit of a microcosm of the slow rolling disaster that has been January 6th, because in addition to the lack of accountability, I think it exposes some of the fallibility of our institutions and law enforcement right in the heart of Washington.
Oh, absolutely. And then there's the politics. We haven't even gotten into that, because what do the politics look like when it's a Trump FBI that has no interest in investigating anything real regarding January 6th and that is still interested in attempting to prove something that isn't true, that Donald Trump somehow won the election? I do not look forward to that period, but I'm sure that you will stay on this story. Hunter Walker, please come back. Thank you very much. And before the break, over the weekend, President Biden awarded the nation's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, to 19 people. The group included politicians, athletes, actors, scientists, and cultural icons. Among them, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, U2 singer Bono, humanitarian chef Jose Andres, as well as environmental advocates and educators Jane Goodall and Bill Nye the Science Guy, and posthumously civil rights icon Fannie Lou Hamer. Of course, there was one recipient who really triggered the right wing, billionaire philanthropist George Soros, the leading boogeyman for right-wing haters and conspiracy theories, for daring to donate to causes that support scary ideas like democracy, decency, and, God forbid, immigration. Stay mad, haters.